In this video, I'm going to show you the preps you need to buy now to prepare for Thanksgiving, and it's coming right up. If we're just meeting, I'm Denise Jordan, and I teach traditional homemaking for today's homemaker. So if you want to learn more about making and keeping a home, hit that subscribe button and double tap that little bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Okay, let's jump into it. Thanksgiving is just a few weeks away, and because of all the uncertainties, it will be more important than ever to celebrate Thanksgiving. And whether you're planning a Thanksgiving dinner for 2, for 6, or for more, you're going to want to make sure you have the things you need to put together a traditional holiday meal. And let's get started with the star of the show, the turkey. I don't have a turkey on this counter. I was not able to pick one up. I talked to the guy at Kroger, and he said they won't get them in until around November 5th. So I'll just have to wait until then to pick one up. But if push comes to shove, I do have a small turkey breast in the freezer that I could roast, or I could roast the chicken. And actually, roasting the chicken is not a bad idea. There are lots of people that don't like turkey, but very few people that don't like chicken. But if turkey is something that you want for your holiday meal, if they're in the store where you normally shop, pick one up now. And let's talk about the stuffing, the dressing, whichever it is that you use. The stuffing goes in the bird, the dressing is on the side. But the making of it is pretty much the same. And when I am making my dressing for my holiday meals, I like to have this Pepperidge Farm cornbread stuffing mix as the base. Now, I will make my own pan of cornbread to go with this, and I will mix them together and a variety of other spices and different things. But I like to use this as part of my mixture. And I've been looking for it for several weeks and was not able to find any, but I was able to find some today. So if you like to use the Pepperidge Farm cornbread stuffing mix, or even their classic white bread stuffing mix for your holiday stuffing, you better pick some up now and avoid the holiday rush. Okay, moving on from the turkey and the dressing, let's take a look at some of the other preps that you may need. And these are in the category of baking. And I've got quite a few things up here that I think you might need. So we'll start on this end of the counter, and I'm going to start with peanut butter. Just in case peanut butter cookies or some other kind of peanut butter treat is something you like to make for the holiday season, make sure to pick up some peanut butter. And Kroger almost always has it on sale. And then I already mentioned earlier that I like to make cornbread dressing. Well, you gotta have some cornbread to make that pan of cornbread to make that dressing. And I have been looking for the 5-pound bags of cornmeal for the longest time, ever since the shutdown in March, and I've not been able to find any. But what I do find are these 2-pound cans. So I will pick up these 2-pound cartons of cornmeal when I can. So if you see some of that, pick it up. We also use it for other things. For example, my husband likes to use it to make a breading for his fish. And I know lots of people like to have fried fish with their holiday meals. So pick up some additional fish breading so that you can have it ready if you need to make some fried fish. And then right down here in the front, I've got some brown sugar. And Kroger had these 3 for $5. I only picked up 2 because 2 was all that I needed. But I'm always using brown sugar at the holiday time. I will use some of it in baking, particularly at Christmas time if I'm going to make gingerbread, but then also when I'm making a ham for Thanksgiving or Christmas. And you can always use a sweetener, so pick up some brown sugar. And then of course you can't bake if you don't have flour and sugar. So I picked up this 10-pound bag of Domino sugar, and I prefer the Domino brand. And then I've got this 5-pound bag of flour, and it's just an all-purpose flour. But here's the thing. The flour shelf was not as full as was the sugar shelf. And if you think back to March when the shutdown happened, One of the first items to disappear off the shelf was flour, and then the other was yeast. So if you're into baking at all for the holiday season, pick up some sugar, some flour, and pick up some yeast. And you might want to pick up a little bit extra so you've got some to tide you over for Christmas. And if you like to make any kind of muffins or cookies that have raisins or nuts, raisins and nuts are some preps you definitely want to pick up for this holiday season. And then a lot of times on those mornings when you've got family in and you're fixing breakfast, they like to have cinnamon rolls as part of that. And Kroger had these cinnamon rolls, buy one, get one free. So I've got 2 of those. So that's a good prep you want to pick up. The other thing is, along with the baking, you might want to pick up some Philadelphia cream cheese because there's so many things that people like to make with that. So be sure to get some of that. And then, of course, pie crust. Now, if I'm making an apple pie, I will make my own pie crust. But if I am making pumpkin pie or a cheesecake, then I will typically buy a ready-made, either a graham cracker crust or a Pillsbury crust with a little that's already in the little pie tin. But make sure you pick up some pie crust in some form so you've got those available for your holiday baking. And then I also have this can of pumpkin to show you. And there was talk that there was a shortage of pumpkin. Well, the problem was there was just a delay in the pumpkin getting to the grocers. For whatever reason, Libby said they had a delay in bringing it to market, but now it's in and they've got plenty. So pick up some pumpkin from your local grocer. And if you can't find any in the can on your shelf, then you can also find some in the produce section. You can find those little small pumpkins and use those for pies. Or there are pumpkins galore all over the place right now on sale for Halloween, and you can use those pumpkins, bake them, scrape out the puree and freeze it, and then save that to use for your pumpkin dishes for Halloween. Keep it in mind that you can't do more with pumpkin than just make pie. Other goodies that I like to pick up in the baking section are these Jiffy corn muffin mixes. My family loves Jiffy corn muffin mix, and I enjoy it too. So I always have these around for the holiday time. You can use this to make cornbread stuffing, but unless you're truly a cornbread stuffing connoisseur, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. And then, of course, for baking, you're going to need some shortening, and I like the Crisco brand. But if you're making your own pie crust, you definitely need some shortening. So be sure to pick up some of that. Now, what else are you going to need for your holiday baking? Carnation evaporated milk. And you use the evaporated milk in baking. You can use it in mashed potatoes. You use it in macaroni and cheese. You use it in so many dishes. So you're definitely going to need carnation evaporated milk, quite a few cans. So when you see those, and it should be on sale at this time of the year, pick it up. But then you'll also need some sweetened condensed milk, and you use that in baking, not in your mac and cheese or anything like that, because it is too sweet, but you can use it in baking. So this is something else you're going to want to pick up: evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk. And make sure you check your spice cabinet, because there's so many spices that you use when you're doing your holiday baking, and you don't want to find yourself short when you get ready to get down to business. Many people like to use sage in their turkey and in their dressing. So I've got a can here of ground sage, but I also have a jar of dried sage, the whole leaves that I was able to put up from my kitchen garden. If your family's a pumpkin pie aficionado, then you might need to make sure you've got some pumpkin pie spice in your pantry. If you don't have it in that spice cabinet, you're going to want to pick some up. I use a lot of thyme when I'm roasting my turkey, so I want to make sure I had some of those. So not only do I have this partially filled jar that I purchased, but I also have some thyme that I put up from my kitchen garden. And when I'm making my wassail, I use cinnamon sticks in that little brew. And I make wassail for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And then people also use the cinnamon sticks for other reasons. So make sure you've checked your pantry, and if you don't have any cinnamon sticks, you're going to want to pick some up. And of course, you can't do much baking without some vanilla extract. So make sure you've checked your pantry to see if you've got that, and if you need to pick up more, do so. And then of course, you're going to need some salt, some kosher salt to make the brine for your turkey and to use in other dishes. So checking that spice pantry is going to be very important so that when you go out to pick up your Thanksgiving preps, you pick up exactly what you need. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about some of the produce preps that you want to pick up for Thanksgiving. First of all, my family loves sweet potatoes and they like sweet potato pie. So I always make sure I've got plenty of sweet potatoes to make those pies and those candied sweet potatoes. And then of course you're going to need some garlic for those garlic mashed potatoes, garlic on the turkey, and a few other dishes you may choose to put it in. And then of course carrots and celery to make your stuffing, and then also to serve as a bridge or rack, so to speak, to set your turkey on. So I always make sure I've got plenty of carrots and celery, as well as well, that wasn't packed very tightly. So make sure you've got plenty of carrots, celery, and onions. I've got a nice 2-pound bag of onions right here to use for your holiday preparations. You use onions in so many things. There's the Trinity: carrots, celery, and onions. So make sure you've got those. And then of course, lemons, apples, oranges, and other fresh fruit. You're going to need those for your pies, for your brine, for your to stuff your turkey, and so many other things. So make sure you get those. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I always make wassail for Thanksgiving, so I use apple cider as the base. So I always get a half a gallon of apple cider, and then I use that with pineapple juice and lemon juice and orange juice and some other things. So make sure you pick up some of that. I mean, it is fall, y'all. And then, of course, some chicken broth. You use chicken broth in so many dishes. So make sure you pick up some of that. And one of the things that I had difficulty finding in March was canned biscuits. And I like the buttermilk grand round, so I always make sure I get those. But I'll get whatever canned biscuits that are available if I can't find these. And of course, I can make my own biscuits. I do have flour, and I've got baking powder and baking soda and those kinds of things. And I forgot to mention those things when I was showing you the baking products. When you're checking that spice pantry, make sure you've checked for, do you have enough baking soda? Do you have enough baking powder? And pick up those things now. And 2 preps that I absolutely must have as part of my Thanksgiving essentials include this one, Heinz roasted turkey gravy. And I know you're thinking, well, can't you make your own gravy? Well, yes, I can, and I do. My gravy is semi-homemade. I will take my turkey drippings and mix in a little flour, get a little thickening, and then I will mix it in with this Heinz roasted turkey gravy. And I will have to tell you a little story. One year I did as I always do. I used my drippings and made the combination of, home style gravy with this roasted turkey gravy. And what was left over, I was putting back in the jar, because I always save the jars in the fridge until the end of the day. And my mom saw me putting the gravy back in the jar, and she was like, Denise, I thought you made that gravy. And I laughed and said, well, why should I make my own gravy when Heinz does such a good job? And at that time, I think probably all I had done was use the Heinz turkey gravy. But today, I always make it semi-homemade. I will use this and my own drippings to make delicious roasted turkey gravy. And then something else that is important to have is meat to add seasoning or flavoring to the greens and other things that I may be cooking. So if I'm doing my holiday green beans, I'm going to use either smoked turkey legs or smoked turkey tails to flavor the green beans. If I'm doing collard greens, I'm going to go with either ham hocks, smoked turkey legs, or smoked turkey thighs to flavor the collard greens. So 2 things that I absolutely have to have will be the Heinz turkey gravy and the smoked turkey to add my flavorings. So what are some of your secrets for your semi-homemade dishes that may go on your holiday table? Or what kind of things do you use to flavor some of your side dishes? Tell me in the comment section below. So here are the last of the preps that I think are important for you to pick up for Thanksgiving. And we're going to start on this end this time. And we're going to start with this can of green beans. Lots of people like to have green beans as a side dish or green bean casserole. So make sure you pick up some green beans, and they are readily available on the grocery store shelf. And then if you like green bean casserole, you're also going to need this can of French's crispy fried onions to put on top. And then I like cranberry sauce, whole berry cranberry sauce on my holiday table, particularly at Thanksgiving. Sometimes I will make my own, and Kroger had this 2-pound bag of fresh cranberries for $3.99, and for some reason I seem to think cranberries are higher this year. But the cans of cranberries were on sale for a few cents off. So if cranberries is your thing, then make sure you pick some of those up. And then as far as my secret sauce, I love to use Heinz chili sauce in many of my dishes. Particularly, there's $1 or $2 of it in my mac and cheese as well as in my collard greens. So I wanted to make sure I have some of that. So this is a great prep to pick up. It gives you lots of flavor but no heat. And then for those of you that love potato salad, you gotta have some mayonnaise or Miracle Whip salad dressing to serve as a base to whip up that potato salad, as well as a jar of sweet pickle relish. So those are 2 important preps you want to make sure you pick up. And then what my husband calls those cooking soups. So this cream of mushroom soup or the cream of chicken soup, one of which will go into that green bean casserole and into my cornbread stuffing and in so many other dishes. And then of course, one of the side dishes on many tables will be baked beans. And I like to get the Bush's maple and cured bacon baked beans, if we're going to have those. And then of course corn. Now, whereas green beans have been pretty easy to find on the shelf, corn not so much so. There's been a problem with the corn harvest. Some of the corn crops were destroyed and that kind of thing. So it's not as easy to find corn on the shelf. But I have been able to find some corn in the freezer. So you can pick it up either in the freezer, or you might have to scout around a little bit and find some canned corn. But then also there's some mix of vegetables that you can get that will have corn in that. And then some people like to use canned sweet potatoes for their sweet potato pies or for their candied sweet potatoes instead of using those that are fresh. So make sure you pick up some canned sweet potatoes so that you've got them should you decide you don't want to go through all the trouble that goes along with using fresh. Now, another side dish that is very popular in this area is collard greens. And whereas I will typically use fresh collard greens, and right now Kroger does have fresh collard greens for 99 cents a pound, you can pick those up, wash them, clean them, and pop them in the freezer without blanching, and they'll be perfect still by the time you pull them out for the holiday season, because they'll only be in the freezer for such a short time. However, if you don't want to mess around with fresh collard greens, then of course you can get the canned Glory Greens or another brand, whichever you choose to get. And another dish on many holiday tables is mashed potatoes. So you definitely want to pick up a box or 2 of mashed potato flakes. You can do garlic mashed potatoes, you can use regular plain old mashed potatoes with butter and sour cream, whatever, however you want to make them. You can also use mashed potatoes as a thickener. So you definitely want to pick up a couple of boxes of mashed potato flakes for your holiday prep. And if you're making my family favorite mac and cheese, you're going to need to pick up some pasta. And I like to buy the Cremette's elbow pasta, and Kroger will often have this on sale 10 for 10. So make sure you've got this, and you can probably pick up a couple extra boxes so you've got some for the Christmas holiday. And pasta was one of the things that disappeared off the shelves during the shutdown in March. So make sure you're picking up some of that as part of your holiday preps. And then when it comes to breakfast items, make sure you've got something as simple as grits or oatmeal or cream of wheat, whatever kind of breakfast food that you like, depending upon whether or not you're having company. When my little granddaughters are here, I always make sure I've got cream of wheat. But we eat grits year round, so I like to make sure I've got grits in my pantry. And if we're having company, when the hubby makes breakfast, he always makes a pot of grits. So this is another holiday prep you can pick up. They're delicious with butter and sugar. I know some people are gagging. Some people like cheese and salt and pepper and that kind of thing, but to me, grits is like a cereal. So there's that. And then of course, there's pancake mix and syrup. These were also some items that tended to disappear pretty quickly when the shutdown happened. So make sure you pick up some pancake mix that you can use for quick and easy breakfast. And of course, you're going to need some syrup to go along with that. And then once you're done with your holiday meal, you're going to need some storage bags to handle much of the leftovers. So make sure you pick up some of those. Our Thanksgiving is going to be much smaller this year. We are trying to follow the CDC guidelines of limiting the number of people that we have in our home, but I still want to make all the traditional foods. I just won't make as much. So my question for you is, how are you planning to celebrate Thanksgiving this year? And what are your absolute must-have Thanksgiving preps? Tell me in the comment section below. And when you're done here, you might want to check out my family favorite mac and cheese. I will link it above with an iCard and in the description box below. And just so you know, I've raised 3 children and I've managed a home for more than 45 years. So if you want to learn more about making and keeping a home, subscribe. I can teach you to be a traditional homemaker in an untraditional world. In the meantime, this is Denise Jordan saying, you are not done yet. Click on the link in the comment section below and check out my video on family favorite mac and cheese. And I will see you next time.